What do we know about the Shaded Castle at first glance? This rather large area is very optional and doesn't seem to fit into the central lore of the game very much. It is in a secluded valley between Mount Gelmir and the Altus Plateau, shaded from the light of the Erdtree, thus its name. Okay, not really. The branches of the Erdtree dominate the sky even here. So why is it called the Shaded Castle? This castle is cursed, overflowing with a poisonous swamp, which the castle itself is slowly sinking into. All of the enemies here are either poisoned or cursed. Rotten strays, putrid corpses, slugs, Miranda sprouts, basilisks, depraved perfumers, clean-rot knights, wraith-callers, and revenants. Only the few pages and wandering nobles on the upper floors are untainted, likely servants of the castle's ruler. The upper floors are also filled with dozens of mysterious stone statues of women in various poses, implying prayer, benevolence, and piety. The boss of this area is named Elamur of the Briar, and is found in a room at the top of the castle. There is also an NPC named Malay Marais outside the castle, near the cliff. And there is a painting. What can we find when we dig a little deeper? Defeat Elamur of the Briar to obtain the Marais Executioner's Sword. The sword reads, Storied Sword of the House Marais, the family of executioners who presided over the Shaded Castle. Elamur of the Briar, the bell-bearing hunter, snatched the sword from the site of his looming execution. Defeat Malay Marais to obtain the Marais Mask, Marais Robe, and the Antspur Rapier. The robe reads, Customarily worn by the head of House Marais. The sons of House Marais are all born sickly. Little wonder that Malay Marais would be so beguiled by the beautiful and fierce goddess who was born into rot. The rapier reads, The blade drips with scarlet rot. Scarlet rot is an old legend, of which Malay Marais of the Shaded Castle was a private believer, and indeed he eventually found his own personal goddess. The mask reads, Mask in the image of a white-haired young noble, customarily worn by the head of House Marais. The Marais family has a dual history spanning generations, serving as both executioners and castellans of the Shaded Castle. This mask bears the likeness of the first of their line. Now we can see a bit more of the story. Elamur rejected his execution and ejected Malay Marais from the castle. This is reinforced by the lore ghost near the inner gate site of Grace. Malay, sickly from birth, developed an obsession with poison, especially rot, and began to worship Malenia. He surrounded himself with poison and anything related to Malenia, like the Clean-Rot Knights and the Valkyrie's prosthesis. He commissioned statue after statue of his goddess, even though he didn't know what she looked like. He even grew red ivy all over the statues and the upper parts of the castle, to represent the scarlet rot he obsessed over. The Halig tree is even visible from the Shaded Castle, through the mist, especially from the cliffside where Malay stands. The Marais family were castellans of the Shaded Castle and executioners for generations, just as witch hunter Jaren is the castellan of Redmane Castle in Radahn's absence. But is this enough to explain the curse of the castle itself? Maybe, but we can still go deeper. Curses in Elden Ring seem to originate from the immense suffering and misfortune of the dead. The Deathroot curse sprouted from the body of Godwyn, who was killed despite his immortality. Seedbed curses are created by Dung Eater doing whatever it is he does to corpses. Likewise, the curse of the castle likely arose from a very large accumulation of human suffering. This concept is very prevalent in the Conviction arc of Berserk, which we all know is very influential to these games. The depraved perfumers are only in one wing of the castle, and are likely just there to fit the theme, as their clothing is adorned with a curse against the Erdtree itself. The only truly cursed enemies here are the Wraith-callers and Revenants. Scarlet rot may seem like a curse, but it's actually just due to the influence of an outer god. So why are these truly cursed beings here? Are they just the result of generations of executions by the Marais family? Or is there more? Let us gather the bits that remain. Remember that painting? It's called the Champion's Song Painting, and it depicts the Sainted Hero's grave. The Sainted Hero's grave is the location of two important things. The first is the boss, the ancient hero of Zamor. and the second is the ashes of the ancient dragon knight Kristoff. The boss isn't especially noteworthy, as it appears in other places in the game. However, it does bear a striking resemblance to the Morais mask, which was said to be a likeness of the first of the Morais line. The Dragon Knight's ashes read, Spirit of Kristoff, an honorable knight of Leyndell, who is also a devout worshipper of the ancient dragons. His skills strike down foes with thunderbolts, the dragon's weapon of choice. After the first defense of Leyndell, Kristoff earned the hero's honor of Erdtree Burial for the feat of capturing Godefroy the Grafted. Godefroy is imprisoned in the Golden Lineage Everjail in the southwest corner of Altus Plateau. Curiously, the valley that leads away from the shaded castle is like a line which curves and then points to this Everjail. Godefroy is mentioned nowhere else in the game to my knowledge, which makes this all very suspicious. With all this in mind, here is my speculation for the history of the Shaded Castle. This is the birthplace of the practice of grafting. Grafting happened here for generations, and the accumulated suffering led to the curse of the Revenants, who appear to be grafted themselves. Godefroy was the last lord of the Shaded Castle to do this, as he was captured by Kristoff and imprisoned. This was enough to earn Kristoff an honorable burial, but he was still a heretical dragon worshipper, so the question of who to give the cursed castle to remained. Entered the hero of Zamor, renowned for their bravery in the war against the fire giants. This hero was given the Shaded Castle as a reward for their service. The Morais family may have built the higher portion of the castle to try and distance themselves from the poison and curses seeping up from the ground. However, the castle is already irreparably cursed, and not fit for any respectable purpose. So then why not use it for unrespectable purposes? Thus the Morais family was charged with the execution of whoever the Golden Order saw unfit to live, at least until Elamir of the Briar survived the execution. But the castle remains, cursed with the tortured souls of the grafted, fused together, twisted beyond recognition in the form of revenants. This is a castle shaded not from light, but from grace.